Hi everyone, my name is Fran, one half of the corporate breakout couple, and this is our channel. For our new viewers, a little background on myself. I'm Malaysian, Singapore PR. I've been living in Singapore for the last 12 years, and last year my husband, who's a Singaporean, John, and we moved back to Penang, Malaysia to retire. Today, I'd like to explore something about my homeland, Malaysia, and the question is, are you really rich if you're a T20 income earner in Malaysia? I've been back living in Malaysia for the last 1.5 years now, and I've noticed that things have gone up in prices. The cost of living has increased compared to before I left 12-13 years ago. So let's deep dive into this question, shall we? But before that, please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button, and you can join our YouTube family. In Malaysia, T20 refers to the top 20% of income earners based on your gross household income. So in Kuala Lumpur, if your household income is 16,600 or more, then congratulations, you're part of the top 20%. However, don't let the title of being T20 fool you, because it doesn't mean you're automatically rolling in wealth. Here's a chart by the Department of Statistics Malaysia (DOS) for the monthly household gross income by state and percentile updated 2022. So T20 means the 80th percentile of the gross household income, right? So if you take a look at Kuala Lumpur here, it will be in between the 75 and 90. So 16,600 to 17,000 would put you at the top T20. Of course, KL, being the capital of Malaysia, would have a higher number for T20. But if you look at other states, for example, Penang, where I'm from, then the number would be significantly lower. So let's talk about cost of living. One crucial factor to consider is how much you're spending on your daily necessities. Even with a T20 income, expenses can be high, especially in places like KL, Selangor, and Penang. Things like housing, education, and food can take a large chunk out of your household income. It is not just about how much you earn, but how much you have left after covering these essentials. Let's talk about food, right? If you're earning in ringgit Malaysia, actually eating out in restaurants and cafes can be a pretty expensive affair, especially if you have maybe 4 people in your household all eating out. Now, let me give you an example. The other day, John and I and my best friend, we went for a very simple dim sum brunch. And it's not a fancy place, mind you. It is just a little makeshift area next to a car park. You're actually sitting in very dilapidated tables and chairs. And guess what? Our bill for this dim sum lunch came up to 110 ringgit. Here, let me show you a picture. So that works out to be about 36 ringgit per person. And I'm telling you, if I were to pay 36 Sing dollars in Singapore eating dim sum, I'll be seated in a nice air-conditioned restaurant eating more refined dim sum. You know, to my surprise, Malaysians are pretty used to paying prices like this. You know, sometimes my mother will come home from her lunches with friends and family, and she'll tell me casually, oh, you know, we went to this restaurant, the food's pretty good. And I asked her, how much do you pay for yourself? She said, oh, about 50 ringgit, 60 ringgit, pretty affordable, pretty good pricing. So, you know, after staying 1.5 years in Malaysia, I am actually still shocked at how casually people are throwing these prices around in ringgit, and they're calling it a normal lunch. Because I'm telling you, in Singapore, if I were to spend 60 Sing dollars on a lunch, I tell you, it better be a freaking fancy lunch, and I'm gonna be eating until I have to skip dinner. I know of T20 earners who are living paycheck to paycheck every month in Malaysia. Why is that? Well, it all boils down to lifestyle choices, isn't it? Well, think about it. If a household income is maybe pulling in RM 20,000, you might be even thinking, hey, not too bad. I may have some disposable income that I can go eat at more fancy restaurants, cafes, maybe take more frequent staycations in Malaysia and whatnot, and suddenly, oh no, you have zero left in your bank at the end of the month. You may notice I said staycation in Malaysia because let's face it, RM 20,000 a month household income gross, by the way, isn't enough for a family to travel much outside of Malaysia. You know, this is simply because the ringgit has been devaluing against the other currencies, and the moment you exchange ringgit to other currencies, it loses its purchasing power. Do you know, a friend of mine went on a Bangkok trip not so long ago, and they had to change so much money into baht for maybe a 5 to 6 day trip. It is insane how much Malaysians have to spend the moment they step out of Malaysia. Let's talk about cars, something which Malaysians cannot do without. If your household gross income is pulling in 20 to even 30k ringgit a month, you might be thinking, I've made it in life, let's upgrade to a nicer family car, maybe a BMW or a Mercedes. But guess what? It's actually these lifestyle choices that eats into your seemingly substantial income, which leaves you little to no room for savings or even investments. Now let's talk about houses. Malaysians, for some reason I cannot understand, they love to buy new launches and new developments so frequently. In Singapore, it's very difficult to buy a second or a third house, right? Because of all the regulations and the money involved. But no, in Malaysia, let me tell you, whenever I go to family gatherings or gatherings with friends, all they talk about, hey, there's this new launch, let's go and see. Shall we get a unit? Or hey, there's a new development coming up right next door. Shall we go and take a look? Maybe, we can all invest together. So it's just like that in Malaysia. My friends own 2, 3 apartment units, and they're all not rented out. With high interest rates, and the resale market in Malaysia isn't very robust, let me tell you that. Your money is just being flushed down the drain. It doesn't matter if you're a T20 or a T1, T2, which means you're earning a lot of money. Your money is just being flushed. Don't forget about taxes. Remember, T20 is based on gross household income, which means it's before tax. If you're pulling in 20, 25, even 30k ringgit a month in gross household income, your taxes would be easily 4,000 to 5,000 a month. And don't forget your EPF, which is compulsory, and your SOCSO as well. So actually, at the end of the day, what do you have left? So if you haven't realized, in the macro, from your gross household income, taxes actually make up more your top expenses every month. Okay, fellow Malaysians, hard truths. If you actually compare other T20s in other countries, you are actually quite far off. Can you afford to fly your entire family on business class frequently? How many months do you need to save up for a Rolex watch or a branded bag? The reason I brought up Rolex and branded bags is because when I was in Singapore, actually Singaporeans, it's quite common for them to spot a Rolex or carry branded bags, and it's actually nothing to shout about. My husband John and I recently just came back from South Korea, and we spent 3 weeks there. A friend asked me, hey, why do you choose South Korea? It's so expensive. And guess what? This friend belongs to the T20 group. And as I'm making this video, I currently have so many Singaporean friends with their family traveling to Seoul as well as Japan. They don't belong to the T20 group in Singapore. They are just your average Singaporean family. Therefore, as a Malaysian working in Malaysia and earning ringgit, it is important to know where the ringgit is benchmarked against the other world currencies. So dear Malaysians, what can you do? If you're a T20 or M40, you might want to start to think of diversifying your money into other currencies as a hedge. We live in a globalized world, right? So for Malaysians, you can actually gain a footing into the US stock exchange, or look no further than our dear neighbor Singapore, where you can gain exposure into the real estate market by investing into Singapore REITs. Alternatively, you can also start a side hustle that pays you in a different currency like US dollars or Sing dollars. Malaysia is an awesome country to live in. You don't necessarily need to move away from Malaysia. You just need to be creative enough to find various ways and means to make your money work hard for you. So to wrap it up, being a T20 income earner doesn't automatically equate you being rich. It all boils down to financial literacy. It actually all depends on the choices that you make, how you plan for the future, and how you manage your finances. I hope that this video has provided valuable insights. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
If you are interested in breaking out of the corporate 9 to 5 rat race or embark on your early retirement journey, do check out our Breakout Academy, where we will support you further on your goals.